Hello guys, Assalamu alaikum guys, we are live again. Aj guys, today we are going to learn from the rabbis how these things will happen because they are working for their Messiah. You have to learn that Jews are like working for their Messiah. Okay, let's
The first
okay, guys, again. We are going to learn from the mouth of Jews. Not just Jew, it's a rabbi. It's written the rabbi Penches trailer. Okay, we have to see things. Let's start. Still, I'm not feeling well, guys. Let's see how long I can do a live stream. Okay, let's learn it from the mouth of Rabbi. Yeah, let's see what they say. I think we have to learn it from these mountains because the whole United Kingdom is controlled by everyone knows who controls United Kingdom. Guys, I think everyone knows. I don't need to shout it. These people control United States. Okay, let's see what they think. If we learn from their mouth, we will know it how these things will work out and where these things will go and which countries are the point. I have one. I have learned one thing more that I want to tell you that they really want to destroy the Europe. Without the Europe, the Messiah will not come back, guys. Their focus is on the Messiah. Okay, these things are happening for the Messiah, guys. It's all about the religious cause, yes. Yes, yeah, it's a religious cause. Let's start this.
step in realizing and awaiting redemption is to realize that we're in exile, to realize that we're in a state of exile.
This video is all like a one year. 1 year. Oh yeah. I'm sure.
The concept of Mashiach and the coming of Mashiach, the Messiah.
Yeah, Messiah is the core. It's like a root. Without if they do not believe on the Messiah, these things will be not happening. Okay, guys.
And the era of the redemption is a foundation of Judaism. It's the 12th of the Rambam's 13 principles of faith. Rabbi Israel Meir Kagan, known to many as the Chafetz Chaim, said that belief in Mashiach's coming, the belief in the Messiah's coming, is not only a principle of Judaism, but the principle of principles. One of the foundation points, a nucleus of our religion, something that everything that we do is sort of centered around. The Talmud, the Gemara in Shabbos, also says that it's one of the first things that every soul, every person is asked when they finish their lifetime. It's one of the first things that they're asked in heaven if they did with their life, if they awaited the redemption, if there was something that was thought about, spoken about, and strived for during their lifetime. So of all the things that we do and all the things that we encounter and try to work on in our life, that's one of the first questions that we're asked when we get upstairs. It's not enough also to just believe in the Messiah's coming and Mashiach's coming. A person is actually supposed to await for him. Await and anticipate and sort of expect him every single day. So in order to really appreciate what Mashiach is and what the era of the Messiah is, in order to appreciate it, we have to first appreciate the idea that the Jewish people are in exile. That we are in exile, and that we have been in exile for nearly 2,000 years. To appreciate redemption and being redeemed, you have to realize that there's something to be redeemed from. Many might say, we have life fairly comfortable here in America. Many Jews in contemporary society have a fairly comfortable life and are able to sort of practice their religion freely. I understand maybe at different parts of history why the idea of Mashiach, and Messiah, and the era that comes with it may have been something worth yearning for and worth searching for. But today I feel fairly comfortable. And the first step in realizing and awaiting redemption is to realize that we're in exile. To realize that we're in a state of exile. So we are in exile, and we've been in exile for nearly 2,000 years. One of the symptoms of that, and one of the symptoms of that sickness, of the exile state, is that we've been unable to dwell in the land of Israel in a society that's based on the precepts of the Torah. Okay? Instead, we've been subject the last 2,000 years to foreign rule from foreign societies, and also been subject to foreign ideologies. Now, a person might think, well, the last 60 some odd years we've had control, there's been Jewish control of the land of Israel. But we have to know that even today, the idea of exile, that the Jewish people are in a state of exile, exile is not limited to a geographical location, that we're not physically present in the land of Israel. Exile is much more a state of mind and a state of being than a geographical location. Exile can occur even to Jews who are living in the land of Israel, even currently, even though it's under Jewish rule. Exile is a state of mind, a state where we don't openly perceive godliness. And the governing system and the way in which we rule our own lives and our lives are ruled is not based on the precepts of Torah. That's a state of exile. That's the exile state of mind. And when Mashiach comes and the Messianic era comes, our whole worldview, our whole perception of reality will be godly based and Torah based. So exile is not a geographical location only. It's also, and most importantly, it's a state of mind. It's an ideology. One of the purposes, perhaps the central purpose, of why God put us in this world, says our tradition, is that First of all, God wanted to do kindness. He wanted to bestow himself, kindness on an entity that perceived it to be something outside of him, something different, something separate. And the goal in which he desired, for whatever reason he desired it, was to make a dwelling place for godliness, making a place where godliness can be palpably perceived, in a place that's constructed to conceal godliness. So God creates this physical world full of temptations and lusts and desires, and to all external views, of all superficial viewpoints, a cursory look at the world, one could view the world as a place that's devoid of godliness and devoid of spirituality. And God wanted that even in such a state, and even in a place where there's temptations and distractions and superficially looks like a place devoid of godliness, that even in such a place, godliness would be revealed. And this whole idea of godliness being revealed, even in a place that was meant to conceal it or constructed to conceal it, is the highest revelation of godliness that can possibly be. In the very place that was created to conceal godliness, even in such a place that will reveal godliness, that's the highest revelation of godliness that there can be. That idea will be actualized when Mashiach comes.
They are still in the exile. Okay, means it's not a physical, it's a mind thing. Like still they are not there. Still they are there, but still they are not there, according to him. Yeah. When Masih comes, then they will be in the esteem fury. Guys, France also have joined the war. How dumb they are, guys. Europe is doomed, guys. 100% Europe is doomed, guys. Because the petrol price will increase, and already they can't afford to buy a oil, or not oil. I'm talking about the gas. They can't buy a gas from the Russia. Now they can't buy oil from the Gulf countries. Now they have joined the war, and UK is also going to join a war, guys. I have seen a video, and let's see what he's saying. If he is talking in English, it will be
For
fine.
the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier, faced with this unstable situation and the uncertainties of the coming days, I have given the order for the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier and aircraft and its escort to travel to the Mediterranean Sea.
This is bad, guys. This is bad. Guys, you also can join the my Kick channel. There is a full live stream, guys. Today we are going to learn about this condition. What we are going to learn about this time period. What is happening according to the Jews, because they are the main core. We all know that Jews control America, guys. I think little bit Europe. They like to get elected and then join others. Yeah, you are right, bro. European people said it too bad, guys. And also Americans.
Welcome back to our 4-part series on Mashiach, the Messiah, and the Messianic redemption. So far, we've learned about the basic principle of Mashiach and the Messianic era. And also, last week, we touched on who is Mashiach. The million-dollar question in Judaism, though, is when is Mashiach coming? The Talmud teaches, as you can see on source number 1, that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who was a great Talmudic sage, asked Mashiach himself, "When are you coming?" Because Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was such a spiritual individual, he was able to have that perception of what was going on in the heavens. So he used the opportunity to ask Mashiach, "When are you coming?" So Mashiach...
This Messiah is like for a Christian is a Christ. It's like a Isa alayhi salam. According to the Muslims, they all believe about the Messiah will come, but their belief, Jews believe, is a little bit weird. It will be like it will come. According to Jews, according to the Christians, the Messiah will appear from the heaven to earth. And it's same, not true. It is possible.
Responded to him today. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi waited and waited.
Let's see how old is 1 year. Yeah.
The day is going by, and as the sun is set, he's very disappointed. Mashiach didn't come. So he uses the opportunity to ask Elijah the prophet, why didn't Mashiach come like he promised? He said he was coming today. And so Elijah answered back, today, if the Jewish people will hearken to his words and prepare for him coming. If you take a look at source number 2, there is a preordained date that Mashiach's coming, and it is a heavily guarded secret. The only thing written about that date is that it will happen in its time. God will eventually send the Messiah, whether the world is ready or not. Yet the collected merit of the Jewish people can usher him in earlier. So the idea is that there is a preordained date that no matter what, Jewish people, the world community is ready or not, here he comes. But if the world community is ready earlier, then Mashiach will come earlier. The Talmud speaks actually harshly about those who try to calculate the redemption, who try to work out mathematically or find codes in the Bible as to when that end date will actually be. Why does the Talmud speak harshly about those who try to calculate the exact time? Well, there's a few reasons for that. Number one, errors would cause national disappointment. Imagine you get everybody ready and excited that Mashiach is coming this and this day or this and this week, and then he doesn't show up. There's national disappointment and despair, and people will lose faith in Mashiach's actually coming. Another reason why the Talmud was against calculating an exact date was because it gives likelihood for false messiahs to declare themselves, look, I'm the Messiah. It was foretold that it will come in this and this a day, this and this week. So I'm here to present myself. So number one, because it would cause national disappointment. Number two, because it gives opportunity for false messiahs to present themselves. And another reason is that we learned earlier, the Rambam, the famed medieval sage Maimonides, says that it is a mitzvah, it is an obligation to await Mashiach's coming every day. So if a person has in their mind that Mashiach is not coming till such and such a day, he won't wait for him today, because in his mind, Mashiach isn't coming until next week or next month or next year. So the idea is that we have to wait for Mashiach's coming every day and not make specific forecasts as to when Mashiach is coming. Some say, though, some of our Jewish sages say that this prohibition doesn't apply nowadays, that it only applied to earlier generations. Why did it only apply to earlier generations? Because in earlier times, if they heard that Mashiach wasn't coming for another 1,000 years, 2,000 years, or 3,000 years, it would cause anguish that Mashiach was so far off. But now that the world is getting closer, on the brink of redemption, there's no prohibition at all. The Malbim, a famed 19th century sage, says an enlightening analogy. He says, imagine you have a father and son who are traveling a long distance. At the beginning of the journey, the son asks the father, when are they going to arrive at their destination? Dad,
Yeah,
are
he
we
will
there
be.
yet?
Yeah, Jesus will be king, guys.
As they near the town, the son takes the same question. The son asks the same question to the father. This time, the father gives an answer and said it'll just be a short while longer. The analogy is pretty clear. So too, as the redemption nears, right, the idea of forecasting will become, things will become more apparent in the world that Mashiach is ready to come. The truth is that the redemption is an unfolding process, one that we can even see traces unfolding right as we speak. The Chafetz Chaim, a famed early 20th century sage, said that even a blind person can see that we are on the brink of Mashiach. All signs indicate that he's not far off. A contemporary scholar, Rabbi Moshe Sternbach, says that exile is nearing an end. We have been told that the year 6000 is going to be when Mashiach must come, the year 6000 on the Jewish calendar. And he writes, the conditions for him coming have already been fulfilled. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, countless times throughout his leadership, announced and publicized that Mashiach is imminent. The sages laid out a map of how world history would unfold from the days of Adam all the way until Mashiach would come. The world is described in the Torah as being created in 6 days. The sages draw a parallel between these 6 days and 6,000 years of world history that would conclude in Mashiach coming. In other words, that just as the world was created in 6 days and God rested on the 7th day, so too the world will exist for 6,000.
This is weird, guys. We all have to think, guys, how God can rest on, like, he worked like 6 days and he rests on the 7 days. This is weird, guys, for me. How God can rest, guys. That's weird. That's so weird, guys. I think it's not believable, guys. I can't believe it. God will not rest, guys.
Years,
how can God rest, guys? He's not a human, guys.
Following that, an eternal rest, an eternal Sabbath, known as the year of Mashiach. If you take a look in text number 3, you'll see it laid out clearly. In the Talmud, the first 2,000 years from Adam until the year 2000 after Adam were days that were known as the era of nothingness, the years of nothingness, because then the world was in a semi-chaotic state. You had world in upheaval going through the flood of Noah, through the Tower of Babel, and through the Jewish people being subjugated in Egyptian slavery. The year 2000 to the year 4000 on the Jewish calendar were known as the years of Torah. What that means is not only was the Torah given during that time, but both holy temples also stood during that time. It was the year where Torah and the Jewish people were very powerful. It was in their crux. Then the year 4000 to the year 6000 on the Jewish calendar is known as the era of Mashiach, the years of the Messiah. Because Mashiach, this is the time period which is most apropos for Mashiach to come at any moment.
Guys, join in Kick. There is a link. You can join a Kick. I'm doing a live stream horizontally on Kick. I'm doing a live stream on Kick horizontally. On YouTube, I'm doing a vertically. Okay.
And so the sages of the Talmud,
I think you can find a link
omens
in the
that will alert the Jewish people
who is the Jews' Messiah. According to Christian, it's the Antichrist. According to Muslim, it will be Dajjal. And I think they are waiting for the Jesus. Yeah, Isa alayhi salam. But they have they did not accept the Jesus. Now they are waiting for the next Messiah. And it will be an Antichrist for the Christian. And for the Muslim, it will be a Dajjal. Dajjal means is Dajjal. It's a lie. He's a liar. Dajjal means. Jesus is returning in any moment. We are in the last. Maybe.
Mashiach's coming is very
The Bible says that you
near. Take a look in text number 4, and you'll see that it begins with a bit of a downward spiral. The downward spiral of events begins with large segments of the Jewish community being unfamiliar with their roots. People will no longer have respect for authority, and there will be no one who can provide correction. Wisdom shall become putrid, truth abandoned, the government will become godless, the academies places of immorality, and the pious denigrated. So along with these sort of negative predictions come also some positive predictions as well. Besides the signs of despair, the sages offer some positive signs that the imminence of Mashiach is right away. Number one is that there will be a renewal in Torah study, that the far-reaching dissemination of Jewish mystical tradition will have flowed throughout the world, and also the opening of the gates of wisdom above and the well springs of wisdom from below. The wisdom from above refers to the promulgation of Torah at a whole new level, and the well springs, the opening of the well springs of wisdom from below refer to marvelous discoveries in science and advancements in technology. One of the most interesting and important texts you could see in text number 5 is from the Zohar. The Zohar teaches that our oral tradition teaches that the world as we know it will last for 6,000 years, as we said earlier. Each millennium parallels a day in creation. That's described in the Torah. In the 7th millennium, which corresponds to the Sabbath, the universe will go into a period of Sabbath, of renewal. One interesting thing that it says is that 600 years into the 6th millennium, which would be the year 5600 on the Jewish calendar, that the gates of the supernal wisdom from above will open. They will open together with the well springs from below. This will begin a process which will prepare the world for the 7th generation. Now, keep in mind, the world right now, we're in the Jewish calendar, we're in the year 5777. And what that means is that on the cosmic clock, we are very near to the year 6000. One of the things that happens in my home before the Sabbath, and one of the things that the Zohar predicts, is that no matter what time Shabbos starts, no matter what time the Sabbath comes in, whether it's 5 p.m. or whether it's 8 p.m., it's a rush in a Jewish home in the afternoon. Doesn't matter if it starts earlier, which could understandably be a lot of rush. You have to come home early from work and set up everything up very quickly. But if it's starting 8, 9 o'clock at night, somehow, magically, it's still, the house is a bustle and everything is in a mode of rush. So too, says the Zohar, that as we near the year 6000, which is on the cosmic clock, Friday afternoon, things will begin to speed up. And that means that Torah dissemination will increase exponentially, as will science and technology. And the Zohar compares it to the days of Noah. It says that just as in the 600th year of Noah's life, the flood began and the waters from above started raining down, and the floodgates, the well springs from below, also began to rise up, so too in the year 5600, which corresponds to, on the secular calendar to 1840, that the well springs, the floodgates will open up. Now, that doesn't mean a flood in the physical sense. It means a flood in the spiritual sense. The mystics teach that the floodgates from above mean that Torah will be disseminated and released in a way unparalleled as it was in the past, and that technology will increase first at a little trickle, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more, until it'll be an unstoppable, raging deluge. When I think about world history, it's interesting to note sort of the transformation of how Torah and, in particular, technology, science and technology, have sort of developed and integrated themselves into world consciousness. After the death of Archimedes, which was in around 200 BCE, advancements in science took quite some time to start back up, until Until around the 1500s with Copernicus and Galileo, scientific discovery was relatively limited. In the late 1600s and early 1700s, Sir Isaac Newton solidified the work of his predecessors and encapsulated the primary pillars of science into distinct fundamental laws using mathematics. The mid-1700s saw the Industrial Revolution sweep across Europe and then peak in the mid-1800s when it spread to the United States as well. So this period saw unprecedented growth in inventions and technology. So beginning at 1840, the real floodgates started to open technologically, which flowed and only expanded as we entered into the 20th century as well. Let's zero in on the 20th century for a moment. The 20th century, something began to happen that is basically miraculous. New theories and approaches to looking at the universe were initiated that transformed the way that mankind saw space and time, mind and matter. As the decades progressed after 1900, on the secular calendar, there was an explosion of knowledge and an explosion of technological advances as well. From the Garden of Eden until the year 1900, the main mode of transportation was a horse and buggy, like King David and Julius Caesar. You could have taken anybody out from the times of King David or the times of Julius Caesar and dropped them in the year 1000 or the year 1500, and the culture shock that they would experience would be fairly limited. From 1900, we saw the invention of the automobile, followed by the airplane and the jet plane, until finally, 60 years later, rocket ships and eventually the space shuttle. Communications also spread. It went from the telegraph, then to the telephone, then to the cellular phone, then to Skype, until now a person can literally talk to anyone, anywhere in the world from their smartphone. Medical research is moving so fast, is progressing so fast, that by the time a book is written and goes to print, the information has already become obsolete. This century saw animals cloned, surgeries performed through lasers and robots, and operations carried out on a fetus while still in its mother's womb. The trend continues nowadays at an even faster rate. It says that 1 week's worth of New York Times, that's printed nowadays, has more information in it than a person in the 1800s was exposed to in their entire life. Additionally, it says that this year alone, that there will be 4 exabytes of new and unique information that will be generated, which is more than the sum total of all information generated in the first 5,000 years of world history combined. So we can see, as the Zohar predicted, that starting in the year 5600, 1840, was a time where the floodgates really opened. In fact, it's interesting to note that Pulitzer Prize-winning commentator George Will published...
One thing I have learned that Jews are not going to build a temple until the Messiah arrives, because they are not pure. Guys, they think they are not pure. Without the pureness, they can't build a temple. And thinking about temple, they will build a temple in the Jerusalem. No, it's not going to happen, guys. They are betting. They are causing everything that can bring the Messiah, okay? I heard one rabbi, he said that without destroying the Europe, he will not go and arrive. Okay, they have to sacrifice Europe, guys. And
magazine that the year 1820 begins the modern era, an era distinct from all of history in the past. We said that one of the goals of Mashiach is that the natural will reflect the supernatural, which means that as Mashiach gets nearer, that science itself, the study of nature, will even reveal some Jewish or spiritual concepts as well. Relativity, quantum mechanics, the uncertainty principle, and the anthropic principle are just a glimmer of how we see that taking place, how we see that merge coming together. The scientific discoveries are the lower waters that are mentioned in the Zohar. The upper waters are the flood of Torah knowledge that has burst forth over the past few centuries and began to proliferate at an exponential level. The purpose of the world was created to make it a dwelling place for the Almighty, and this is achieved that when the coarsest creation, when nature itself, will reveal the supernatural. As time progresses near the year 6000, Torah insights too will become able to penetrate in ways and spread across the world in ways that they had never been done before, to all the lowest levels that they had been unable to reach in previous generation. In fact, the proliferation of Torah can actually be seen right now as we speak. The fact that we together, thousands of people from around the world, are able to study some Torah together right now is a fulfillment of that messianic prophecy. So thanks for tuning in and being part of the fulfillment of a messianic prophecy. As we mentioned, just to conclude, we said that the whole world history operates on sort of a cosmic clock, that just like the world was created in 6 days and rested on the 7th day, so too that the world will last for at most 6,000 years, and then
Guys, you can join Twitch and Kick. There I'm doing a horizontally live stream. It's like a full screen live stream. On YouTube, I'm doing a vertically live stream. If you are interested in this live stream, you can join the Kick or Twitch. You can watch it in the best form. I think vertical is the worst form to watch a live stream.
and after that go into a period of Mashiach, the Messianic redemption. That's the latest time. So we, in the year 5777, who are on the cosmic clock corresponding to Friday afternoon, have to realize something. In Jewish law, it explains that it is a mitzvah, it is a good idea if a person would like to bring in Shabbos early. In other words, you don't have to wait until the sun goes down and passes down below the horizon. You can accept Shabbos even while it's still a little bit sunny out. As we near the redemption, this principle can have application to our own life as well. Just as on Friday afternoon, it's a mitzvah to accept Shabbos a little bit early, so too, as we near Shabbos, as we near Mashiach on the cosmic clock, through our deeds, we can bring Mashiach a little bit sooner. We can accept Shabbos a little bit early.
Okay. The Shabbos. What is Shabbos, guys? Guys, what is Shabbos? What is Shabbos?
We said that the ultimate fulfillment of Mashiach coming and the Messianic era was when the physical world would reflect the spiritual, when body wouldn't be an obstruction to spirituality, but would help express spirituality. This will be ultimately realized during the era of Techiyas HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead. The average enlightened individual sees the idea of a bodily resurrection of the dead as some fantastic belief reserved for either horror films or religious fanatics, but many are surprised to discover that the resurrection of the dead is one of the main pillars of which the Jewish faith stands. Resurrection of the dead, at some point in the Messianic future, is very much a Jewish belief, to the point where the sages have said that one who denies the reality of the resurrection is as if he has denied the entire Torah. In fact, the Talmud says that one who rejects the idea, one who rejects belief, said that the ultimate fulfillment of Mashiach coming and the Messianic era was when the physical world would reflect the spiritual, when body wouldn't be an obstruction to
Title of this video. Yeah. I can see. It's Messiah is near. The Rabbi Teller. If you want to watch it, you can go watch it. It's good to learn it about the Jews because they are controlling the world and they are causing everything, guys. These wars are happening because of these things. So they can get close to the Messiah, guys.
Spirituality, but would help express spirituality. This will be ultimately realized during the era of Techiyas HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead. The average enlightened individual
What the resurrection of the dead? How they will do it?
sees the idea of a bodily resurrection of the dead as some fantastic belief reserved for
Is it bodily of the dead? It's fantastic.
either horror films or religious fanatics, but many are surprised to discover that the resurrection of the dead is one of the main
How? Guys, how they will resurrect the resurrection of the dead? 13 fundamental principle is the resurrection of the dead, which we have already explained. Where
pillars of which the Jewish
this is
faith
why,
stands.
guys. This is why.
Resurrection of the dead, at some point in the Messianic future, is very much a Jewish belief, to the point where the sages have said that one who denies the reality of the resurrection
This is
is
why.
as if he has denied the entire Torah. In fact, the Talmud says that one who rejects the idea, one who rejects belief, will not merit to be a part of it, measure for measure. The Talmud relates that the resurrection is alluded to many times throughout the 5 books of Moses. And the books of the prophets are full of open examples
But you should cross the sleepers.
outright predictions of the future resurrection. If you take a look at text number 1 on your handout, from the book of Isaiah, he says in no uncertain terms, your dead will live, their corpses will rise. You
The one person that did that thing, like someone died and the Isa alayhi salam, the like Jesus, he like raised him alive. But how they will do it? Like they believe it. There are it's a their principle, guys. It's like code of Jew. If they don't believe it, they are not Jew. Oh my God, this is wild, guys.
who lie in the dust awake and shout for joy. In addition, Ezekiel assures the people that you
According to Muslims, like the Antichrist will raise the dead. Like he will not raise the dead, but he will show it. Like the dead person is alive now. Like, but it will be a Satan who will do it. Who will show that he is risen. Like he's not dead now.
should know that I am the Lord when
But it will be a Satan. It will be a Satan. Yeah. Satan will show it like he is alive. But he will be not alive.
I open your graves and lead you out of your graves as my people. An angel tells the prophet Daniel, many of those who lie in the dust of the ground will awake. Jewish tradition maintains that all the Jewish people and all of the righteous from among the nations of the world will experience the resurrection. It's something that is repeated daily in our prayers, or hinted at daily in our prayers. In fact, the Moda'ani prayer, which a Jew says every morning upon waking up, is a prayer like a experience,
Can you share a link?
a glimmer of the resurrection in the future.
In the Ethiopian Bible,
You take a look at
Where it says-
source number 2 on your handout.
share a link.
You'll see that the Rambam, the famed medieval sage Maimonides, codifies the resurrection of the dead as the 13th, the final principle of faith. The physical manifestation of the redemption, which is called the world to come, includes a physical resurrection of the souls along with their bodies. If you'll take a look, you could see that in text number 3 of your handout. In truth, the resurrection of the dead
is really not that difficult a concept to accept. We already believe that God created the world something from nothing, that he took nothingness and made it into somethingness. So it shouldn't be very difficult to comprehend that God can create a second time something from an already existing, but merely that has disintegrated or dissolved. If we examine things closely, you'll find that there's a glimmer of resurrection in the workings of the natural world. The French philosopher Francois Voltaire once said that it's no more surprising to be born twice than to be born once. Everything in nature is resurrection. So let's take a look at some areas in nature where we get sort of a glimmer to the idea of the future resurrection. The Tiferes Yisrael points to the idea of a caterpillar. He says, caterpillar spins itself a cocoon. It remains inside until ostensibly it dies, and parts of it decay, and it becomes a thick liquid. Eventually, this liquid blob becomes a beautiful butterfly with wings that bursts from the cocoon and flies through the air. So the entire appearance and lifestyle, the eating habits, everything about the butterfly is completely different than the caterpillar. So it decays, it dissolves, and it's transformed into this beautiful new creature. We see also the idea of resurrection in vegetation, in the cycle of vegetation, growing trees. Think about a planted seed. So you plant a seed in the ground, and first it rots under there, and only afterwards it sprouts into. Only after it rots, it sprouts into a healthy tree with beautiful fruits and flowers, many times greater than the original planted seed.
Queen of Cleopatra asked, Are mere, but when they raise, shall they raise unclothed, or in their garments? He replied, the answer can be seen from what fed came. If a grain of wheat which is very delicate, how much more so the factors are.
In fact, there's a custom in Jewish tradition that when a person leaves a cemetery to uproot some of the grass, and that's the idea behind that is that indicates that the grass seeds sprout forth only after the seeds are buried in the earth. Reminds us that when we go to a cemetery, that this is not the end-all and be-all, that resurrection is coming. This was actually an analogy used by the Talmudic sages to express the idea of resurrection to the pagans. If you take a look at text number 4, the Egyptian queen Cleopatra had trouble fathoming the concept of an enhanced life back in a body after it was decayed. So Rabbi Meir responded with the example of a wheat seed which decomposes before sprouting new life. I remember, just on a personal note, experiencing sort of an idea of resurrection. I grew up in Florida, and in Florida, the weather is wonderful every day. If it rains, it's only in the afternoon from 3 to 3:15. But I had never been to the Northeast or really anywhere that it had snowed. So when I went to a rabbinical school, it was the first time that I really experienced snow. So I remember I came to yeshiva. It was in the Northeast, and it was the winter time. It was January. And my first weekend, we had a snowstorm like you wouldn't believe. And when I looked out the window, I saw what appeared to be death. The trees were barren. The sky was gray. And all day the sky was gray. And it got dark at 4 p.m. And again, I looked out into the forest, and there was trees with no leaves. It seemed like a lifeless wasteland. Little did I know, from my Florida boy mentality, that just around the corner, this forest was going to be teeming with life and full of lush foliage. So we see the idea of resurrection showing itself throughout nature. In the modern era, it really shouldn't be challenging to grasp because it's known that nothing can be created or destroyed. It merely exists in a different form. it was concluded in the late 1700s that matter only changes shape, it never.
Oh, they can't say a God, guys. Jews can't say a God. That's why GT, God made. That will be a cannot get to it, nor can we subtract from it.
It always retains its mass.
Why it's cutting, guys. There's still there is a note, guys. Like he's proving his point.
In other words, you can pulverize things as much as you want. No matter how much something is pulverized, it can never be eliminated. Judaism made note of this concept actually long before modern academia did. King Solomon said that I know that whatever God does.
They believe that they are not pure, that's why they can't say a name of God. Like, yeah, it's tough for me. I can't pronounce it. His name.
You can see it in text number 5. I know that whatever God does, it shall be forever. Nothing can be added to it or anything taken away. Also, we see from Rav Sadia Gaon that even if an object is burned with fire, it can never be annihilated because it's impossible to destroy something to the point that it becomes nothing. That is something reserved for the Creator alone. So resurrection of the dead refers to the rebuilding of the body from matter and energy that's conserved in the universe. You know, with the modern discoveries in DNA.
Like he's saying, if anyone will be resurrection, he will be resurrected like from another form. Like he will be not his same form, but he will be from another form. Yeah, it's making sense, guys, now for me. Why in Islam it's a thing like the Satan will be with the Antichrist, like with Dajjal. He will raise a man from his grave, but now we know how he will be not his real form. He will be from another form. Yeah, and we know it will be Satan who will be in the body of the man who will be raised, guys. The Satan will support Antichrist and Dajjal.
It makes the idea of a resurrection intellectually acceptable and feasible.
Who is Jew? Anyone is Jew in this chat?
The fact that every cell contains all of the information
like 20 people are watching live
that
stream.
can reconstruct an entire
Anyone
body.
Jew is there?
And the scientific success in cloning creatures from a single cell shows that the idea of a bodily resurrection is not as far-fetched as once thought. Interestingly enough, in 2008, there was an article in National Geographic where researchers sought to bring back a variety of the woolly mammoth. We have a lot of
guys without learning their thinking, we will have no idea what will happen next, because they are causing everything, guys. We all know it. It's not hidden now. There was a long time ago things were hidden, but nowadays nothing is hidden, guys. Everyone is seeing it, who is doing it, who is controlling it. Even we don't want to believe it. It's true, guys.
Woolly mammoths preserved in Siberia in the permafrost of the ice.
Do you read?
So it wasn't the article, the discussion in the article wasn't whether it was possible to do this, to bring back these creatures and create sort of a Jurassic Park style exhibit.
Guys, anyone read a Bible, or they just like hear his peace, like righteous people? I think righteous people, it will be easy for me to say it.
The article.
Oh yeah, the church. Who follow church and who follow Bible, guys? I think they are, according to me, like I have a knowledge that Bible says something else and church do something else. For me, it's a little bit weird. Weird, yeah, it's weird. How the church do little bit. But Jews are not like that, guys. They follow their book, guys.
Focused on whether it was ethical to do it. But the ability was a sure thing. In fact, Tom Gilbert, who's an expert in ancient DNA at Copenhagen University, optimistically said in the article that if you can do it with a mammoth, you can do it with anything that's dead, including your grandmother.
Oh my God. Guys, do you know about the fox that has risen? I think it's fake, guys. It's fake, guys. They are not going to create a mammal, guys. In the beast like a beast YouTuber. I'm talking about the YouTuber who are showing it. I'm reading it again now. Once I realize the Roman. Yeah, that's great. Read it, guys. Reading is great, guys. If you are not reading it, anyone can like tell you.
An interesting idea that's brought out by the Chafetz Chaim is he writes that whenever the trend in society is forgetting a main concept in Judaism or spirituality, that God somehow instills in people's minds perhaps an idea in technology or an invention that reinstates the idea. And the Chafetz Chaim notes, he says that when people in society were beginning to forget or beginning to not believe that...
Guys, this video. In this video, Mr. Beast is... Where is Memel?
Extinct species.
I'm not qualified, but let's do it. Well, for bringing back from extinction the animals we're about to see today.
You're going to be one of our scientists and go in the whole process. You're going to help us do all the steps to bring back extinct species.
I'm not qualified, but let's do it. Tens of thousands of years ago, woolly mammoths ruled the...
Yeah, guys. This thing is also a Jews thing, guys. These are mammals are created by... They are... This is big, guys. This is big.
mainland. But after the end of the Ice Age, they all went extinct, leaving behind their DNA in the form of their fossilized tusks.
This is a real tusk.
Now I know it, guys. Mr. Beast is like a how can I say that? I don't have a word. He is controlled by the Jews, guys. Yeah. It's not the right. Now I can say it, guys. After learning from
that the heavens could see what was going on the earth, he said that the telescope.
I think after if we listen his all videos, I think we will have an idea of what's going to happen next. I'm 100% sure now. We will have an idea.
Telescope was invented. In other words, that if the people down here could see what's going on in the heavens, it should make sense to them that what's going on in the heavens can see what's going on down here. And the truth of the matter is that throughout history, different inventions have sort of been used as good examples of refreshing our core spiritual beliefs. When GPS systems came out, many Torah scholars said that it reminds us that just as the GPS can precisely detail exactly where a person is and what they're doing, how much more so can God, the divine, know exactly where we are at any given time. Now, the question is, what is the purpose of a bodily resurrection? Why is that the ultimate goal, that the soul comes back into a body and that it continues, it is rewarded in that way, that's the pinnacle, that's the greatest accomplishment? So the idea is that in Judaism that the body and soul are a team. They're a team to accomplish a goal of uplifting the physical world through Torah and mitzvahs. The objective is not, like it is in some faiths, to escape reality, to escape the world by donning robes and endlessly meditating. The idea is instead to bring heaven down to earth by sanctifying the physical world, which one is a part of. In other words, the act of charity, right? The commandment of charity, the goodness that comes about through charity would not be able to be accomplished without a physical hand that could give the physical coin. Nor could a kind word be spoken without a physical mouth. So the body and soul are a team that implements spirituality in even the most coarse physical world. One idea you could see an example of in text 6 in your handout is an analogy. Think about it like this. Why would the body and soul be rewarded together?
This is chart. Here are those have I been to walk with? Presentment replied, have I yes to see with? What did he do? He replied the same. Sometime the judge kept together.
Imagine you have a house that is burning on fire. And there are two witnesses to what's going on, this house that is slowly burning. The witnesses, though, are one person who is blind and the other person who is in a wheelchair. He can't walk. So the blind person would like to help. He feels the heat of the house that's on fire, and he wants to help. He wants to save the people that are in the house, but he can't do it because his senses are limited. He can't see where the people are located. And the gentleman in the wheelchair is also limited. He sees what's going on and he wants to help the people, but he can't do it because his wheelchair limits him. So what do they decide to do? The blind person puts the individual in the wheelchair onto his shoulders. They run into the house, and through the guidance and through their teamwork, they're able to save everyone in the house. So they imagine that before the house burns down, they manage to take everybody out. They save the entire house. They're heroes. So the mayor of the city convenes this big meeting and awards ceremony. He wants to give the key to the city to one hero who saved the house. And they start arguing between them who should get this medal that the mayor wants to give them. And the blind person says to the one in the wheelchair, well, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be able to get into the house. I was the one who facilitated your legs. I was the one who facilitated moving around all over the house. But the one in the wheelchair says to the blind man, if it wasn't for me, you would never have been able to see where anybody was. So the mayor decides, I'm going to reward both of you. That both of you without each other would not have been able to accomplish what you accomplished, and therefore I plan on giving both of you the reward. So this is really the idea of the body and soul being rewarded. In the future, God will judge the body and the soul together, either rewarding or correcting them both as one unit. They're a team. In the Messianic future, when the dead will once again live and the entire world will have reached its pinnacle, and the true purpose of God's creation to bestow goodness upon his handiwork will be experienced forever. Thank you once again for joining us into our course on Mashiach.
Guys, tomorrow we will be continues his videos. Yeah, he has like 10 videos. We are tired. We will watch tomorrow. Second one. I think watching this video. Not, let's watch it. Let's see what he says.
So let's review where we are. We are discussing or exploring why the United States would want to invade Iran.
Guys, we are also live on Twitch and Kick as a hospitality live stream. If you want to join it, go there and you can get a link in the description.
And so far, we have two good reasons. The first good reason is called the Israel lobby.
I saw this video. Oh.
There are in the Israel lobby millions of Christian Zionists who believe that a conflict in the Middle East, especially between Israel and Iran. Okay, let's start class. So let's review where we are. We are discussing or exploring why the United States would want to invade Iran. And so far, we have two good reasons. The first good reason is called the Israel lobby.
I think he's like good in the history and predicting, but he's not good in the religion. Right? He's weaker in the religious thing. When he talk about the religion thing, he do it something weird, guys. I have no idea why he's doing weird. Why his knowledge is weaker in the religions. That's for me is weird.
In the Israel lobby,
I think he has to learn more about the religion, guys. Yeah.
Of Christian Zionists who believe that a conflict in the Middle East, especially between Israel and Iran, will bring Jesus back to earth. They want their God, Jesus, to return to earth, and they believe that a war in the Middle East will force him to return. Okay, that's the first reason. Second reason is the idea of empire. America is an empire, and as an empire, it has a lot of privileges. For example, it can just print as much money as it wants, right? US dollars. Right now, America is $34 trillion in debt, and the debt is growing by $1 trillion every 2 months. America can do this as long as it is an empire, as long as people fear America. But as we discussed last class, with Putin's invasion of Ukraine, people are now starting to rebel against the empire, and therefore America must demonstrate it still is the military hegemon of the world, and therefore it can do this by invading Iran. Okay? Today we look at the third and final force driving conflict in the Middle East. And it's really the conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Most people think that Iran's major enemy in the Middle East is Israel. In fact, Iran's major enemy is Saudi Arabia. These two are bitter rivals. And to understand why, we have to look at their history. Okay? So the year is 1979. And at the start of 1979, Saudi Arabia and Iran are very good friends. Okay? So let's look at a map of the Middle East. Iran is here. It's next to Iraq. Saudi Arabia is down here. Then this is Egypt. You have Yemen here, Oman. This is the Strait of Hormuz. And this is the Suez Canal, okay? The Red Sea, basically. And in 1979, Saudi Arabia and Iran were very good friends. They had a lot of similarities. They were both monarchies. They were ruled by a king. They were secular. They relied on American power to defend itself. And they were both oil exporters, both very prosperous oil exporters. But then, in 1979, a political earthquake radically changed the landscape of the Middle East. In 1979, there was a bottom-up revolution called the Islamic Revolution. Before 1979, there was a general consensus agreement in the Middle East that religion and politics would be separated. But in 1979, the people in Iran demanded three things. Okay? First, they demanded that the king, they will not be ruled by a king. Okay? That's the first demand. Second is that the U.S. should not interfere in domestic politics. Remember that before the king, the Shah, was supported by the American military. And the third demand is that as a Muslim people, as people who believe in the Islamic religion, the government should be focused on Islamic law. Okay? So, in a referendum, 98% of the people of Iran voted to install an Islamic republic to replace their monarchy. And this was completely unexpected, and this caused an earthquake throughout the Middle East. In November of 1979, 600 religious extremists tried to besiege Mecca, okay? Mecca is the holiest city in the Islamic religion because it's the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad. 600 extremists tried to take the city over and demand three things, okay? That the Saudi Arabian monarchy should abdicate. The United States should remove itself from the internal affairs of Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia should be governed by Islamic law. Now, this revolt was crushed by the military, but from that day on, Iran and Saudi Arabia became bitter enemies because they were both trying to install their vision of Islam on the Middle East. Okay? So, this rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia took three forms. Okay? The first form is religious. So even though they're both Muslim countries, Islamic countries, they have different versions of the religion. Okay? So Saudi Arabia is Sunni, and Iran is Shiite. Now, you may ask what the difference between these two different branches of the religion are. And the answer is no one actually knows. It's a very complicated issue. The major difference is this. In 610, the Prophet Muhammad in Medina, in the city of Medina, he had a vision to found a new religion called Islam. Okay? And he spread this religion.
Sorry, he did not found the religion. No, he did not found the religion, guys. Like, the heck I'm thinking. I'm just trying to find a word in the English, guys. The message came from the God toward the prophet about you are now prophet. Like, he did not create the religion Islam. Islam is here from the Adam alayhi salam. It's like a in Christian, how they say it? I have no idea. I just forget the word. No, they are not 35 different Qurans. I think you need to do more research about the Islam. Yeah. Or maybe you are learning it, they are like not properly educated about it. They are. No, you have to learn it from the proper people, guys. Learning from the anti-Muslims, they will not tell you what is true, guys.
Religion throughout the Middle East, throughout the Arab world, forever transforming the Middle East.
Like if I start learning Christianity from the Muslim, it's useless, guys. It's useless. If I want to learn a Christianity, I have to buy a Bible and I have to read it. Yeah, then I will learn about the Christianity. If I like randomly start talking about the Christianity or the Christian religion without knowing the history, it's foolish thing to do it. According to me, guys.
When he died, there's a problem of succession. Who would succeed the prophet as the leader?
Like if you live in UK, I think you can buy a Quran freely. Just you have to pay a like delivery fee. You can buy a Quran freely. If you want a link, I will share you.
Of the religion. The Shia people believe that only people of Muhammad's bloodline.
Like I'm not going to talk if I want to talk about the Christian religion, I will not talk about in the deep way because I have no idea about the Christian religion. I have like not the like on the top, like on the like normal things that everyone know it. I will talk about those things. It's like they believe in three things, like Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. If I will talk about, I will talk about on those things because I have heard it and I have little bit learned it about what they think about it. I will not talk about the
leaders of the religion. The Sunni disagreed and said that anyone who proved himself competent and faithful to religion could be the leader. And so for hundreds of years, these two groups, the Sunni and the Shia, fought a war over the succession.
And one thing, Sunni and Shia, they believe the same thing, but they don't agree on the history, guys. One thing I want to tell you, Sunni and Shia, they don't agree on the history, guys, on the leader. Sunni thinks this person need to be a leader. Shia thinks this person need to be a leader. They disagree on these things. The main core of religion is the same thing. The believing one God alone, to don't worship.
And this led to a bitter rivalry that's lasted to this day, okay? Now, the majority of people in the world, about 8%, are Sunni, okay? The majority of Muslims in the world are Sunni. 10% are Shia, okay? So, why this is important is that Saudi Arabia is a Sunni country, and Iran is a Shia country. And at the time of the revolution, Iran committed itself to spreading the Shia revolution throughout the world, okay? Now, Saudi Arabia considers itself the leader of the Islamic world because it is home to both Mecca and Medina, which are the two holiest cities in the entire Islamic religion. As you may know, there's a requirement that as a Muslim, you must take a Hajj, a pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina once in your lifetime.
No, it's like if you have a money, if you are capable to go to the Hajj, it's all about the capable. Ramzan is like a Ramzan for the Ramadan. If you are Like if you are not ill, you have to do it. You have to do a roza. But the pilgrimage in the to the Makkah, it's like a you have a cash, you can go. If you don't have a cash, you don't need to go there.
Okay, and because Saudi Arabia controls Mecca and Medina, that's really the source of Saudi Arabia's authority over the Islamic world. Iran argues that because Saudi Arabia is ruled by a king, that's anti-Muslim. And because the United States is defended by the US military, that's also anti-Muslim. Saudi Arabia is a heresy. Okay? So Iran is dedicated itself.
Right now, we are learning why the Saudi prince pushed Trump to go to the war. Because now we have learned that Saudi prince pushed Trump to go to the war. Now we will know it after watching this video.
To subverting Saudi Arabia's authority. Okay, so this all makes sense so far. Okay, now Saudi Arabia is Sunni, and it practices the most extreme form of Sunni religion called Wahhabism. Okay, Wahhabism. In 1744, the Wahhabis, okay, which again are the most extreme Islamic group, made an alliance with the Al Saud family of Saudi Arabia. And the agreement was this, that the Wahhabism would become the national religion of Saudi Arabia, and the Wahhabis would swear allegiance to the Al Saud family. Okay? But in the 1930s, oil was discovered in Saudi Arabia. In fact, Saudi Arabia proved to have the most valuable oil resources in all the world, okay? And at that time, as the world was modernizing, oil was becoming more and more important. And so that made Saudi Arabia extremely wealthy. And as it became more and more wealthy, it tried to become more Western, more secular, more progressive, more modern, which brought it into conflict with the Wahhabis, okay? Now, Wahhabism accounts for 20 to 40% of all the people in Saudi Arabia. So it is a very significant group. More important, Wahhabi people tend to be extremely fanatical. So for example, in 1979, the people who laid siege to Mecca were Wahhabis. And Wahhabis were also responsible for terrorist attacks against tourists, against foreigners in Saudi Arabia. Okay? So Saudi Arabia has always had this problem with the Wahhabis. And a way that Saudi Arabia has tried to resolve the conflict is to export the religion of Wahhabism throughout the world. So for example, Osama bin Laden was a Saudi citizen responsible for spreading Wahhabism in Afghanistan. And that's what started Al-Qaeda. Okay? So Saudi Arabia is trying to export Wahhabism. Iran is trying to export the Shia religion. And so that they come into conflict with each other. Okay? So the first source of tension between Iran and Saudi Arabia is over religion. Second is economical. And what that means is that both countries are oil exporters. In fact, Saudi Arabia is completely reliant on oil for its economy. 40% of Saudi Arabia's economy, GDP, is based on oil exports. Saudi Arabia is #1 oil exporter in the world, okay? 75% of government revenues comes from its oil exports. In other words, Saudi Arabia does not actually collect taxes from its citizens. It just sells oil. Okay? Iran also sells oil. It's the #4 oil exporter in the world, but but it's less reliant on oil because it has a diversified economy, meaning that it has very strong human capital. It has a very well-educated population that does all sorts of different activities, okay? Science, art, education. So Saudi Arabia, for the longest time, has been trying to control the price of oil in order to maximize profits. For example, it wants to cut back production in order to increase the price of oil, which will increase profits. But Iran often doesn't cooperate because Iran is trying to sell as much oil as possible in order to boost its economy. Okay? So there's economic conflict between these two countries. And the third and final conflict is geopolitical. Okay? And geopolitical means that both countries are trying to exert as much influence as possible over the Middle East. Now, Iran is trying to exert influence over the Middle East because after the revolution in 1979, many countries, including Saudi Arabia and the United States, encouraged Iraq to invade Iran. And this invasion, called the Iraq-Iran War, lasted 8 years, and it cost the lives of millions of Iranians. And from then on, Iran has adopted a policy of aggressive intervention in the Middle East in order to distract the United States and Israel. Okay? So, for example, in Israel, there are two groups opposing Israel, Hamas and Hezbollah. And they're both financed and supported politically by Iran. And the point of doing this is to distract Israel. Okay? Now, Saudi Arabia is trying to exert influence over the Middle East because as the number one oil exporter, it needs to control shipping lanes. Okay? It needs to control this area and this area, the Strait of Hormuz and the Suez Canal. And 40% of all the world's oil passes through these two straits, and they go mainly to East Asia, China, South Korea, and Japan mainly. Okay? So, because of these geopolitical tensions, Iran and Saudi Arabia have fought three proxy wars, okay? They fought 3 shadow wars. The first is in Iraq. Now in Iraq, as you know, in 2003, America invaded Iraq and destroyed the country. And after they destroyed the country, there's a power vacuum. And so basically Iran came in and tried to take over the country. And it could do so because 2/3 of the population were Shiite. And therefore, they had affinity with Iran. And a third were Sunni. So what happened was that to counter the Iranian influence in Iraq, Saudi Arabia started to finance the 1/3 of the Sunnis against the Shia. So there was a very violent civil war fought in Iraq after the invasion. Okay? Many people also believe that Saudi Arabia is responsible for the financing of the Islamic State, okay? Or ISIS. Because ISIS really hates the Shia religion. Okay?
No, ISIS had all Muslims, guys. If you research about the ISIS, ISIS is created by Israel, guys. It's now everyone know it. After Iraq war, they created it. It's easy to find it, guys. You will have to Google search and you will find out.
But over time, because Iran has been so much more effective in projecting its power than Saudi Arabia, basically Iran now controls much of Iraq. Okay, so in this first war, Iran defeated Saudi Arabia. Then they fought another war in Syria. Syria's leader, Assad, faced a rebellion. And Saudi Arabia, America, Israel support the rebels against Assad. And Iran came in to support Assad as well as Russia. And over time, Assad was able to crush the rebellion, okay? So in the second proxy war, Iran won as well. Now, there's another proxy war in Yemen, okay? And it started in 2016. So the wars in Iraq and Syria, they were important to Saudi Arabia, but they didn't really threaten Saudi Arabia. But this war in Yemen did threaten Saudi Arabia, okay? So for the longest time, Saudi Arabia supported the Yemen political leadership. And then there was a rebellion by the Houthis, okay? The Houthis. And the Houthis were Shia villagers who lived in the mountains. And they were trying to overthrow the government. And Saudi Arabia was afraid that the Houthis would become friends with Iran. So Saudi Arabia launched a massive invasion of Yemen. It was 150,000 Saudi Arabian troops. They had warplanes. They were backed by the most advanced American weapons and technology, okay? They also had a coalition of about 30 nations, including Egypt and the UAE. Saudi Arabia named this operation Decisive Storm, right? Which sounds like Desert Storm. And the strategy they use is what we call shock and awe. And shock and awe is basically, we have so many bombs, we have so many airplanes, we have so many soldiers that we can, in about a week's time, destroy you, okay? So go in, go fast, be decisive, destroy your enemy. Unfortunately, for Saudi Arabia, this did not work. And the reason why is, first of all, the Houthis were in the mountains. And so your bombs didn't really stop them. In fact, all your bombs did was make them really angry. Because with your bombs, you were killing civilians. Okay? So you're basically uniting the entire population against you.
Okay, these all things happened in 1979. Yeah, I think so. On his board, it's not yet.
That's the first problem. Second problem is that the Houthis are in the mountains, but Saudi Arabia has oil fields. And guess what, guys? It's really, really easy to blow up oil fields. Okay? So that's what the Houthis are doing. They were sending like these cheap drones. They might cost $1,000, $10,000. And they would blow up oil fields and ports. Okay? Saudi Arabia has another problem, okay? Saudi Arabia has no fresh water. It's in the desert. It is a desert. No water, guys. No rivers. So it relies entirely on desalination plants. Okay? And this is extremely impressive technology, right? It takes salt water, seawater, and turns it into fresh water. It's very impressive. But it's all on the coast. And guess what, guys? The coast, so Iran can blow up these plants, and the Houthis can blow up these plants as well. Okay? So Saudi Arabia basically lost this war because the Houthis could inflict massive economic damage on Saudi Arabia. So from this war, Saudi Arabia learned three things, okay? The first thing it learned is that if it wants to defeat their enemies, the Houthis, the Syrians, and the Iraqis, they also need to be able to defeat Iran. Okay? That's the first thing they learned. Second thing they learned is that their economy is extremely vulnerable to attack. At any point, Iran, with its missiles and drones, could destroy the entire Saudi Arabian economy, okay? It can easily blow up all the oil fields and the desalination plants. So the third thing that Saudi Arabia learned from all this is we really need America to fight Iran for us. In the long term, That's the only way we're going to survive as a nation. Okay? We need to defeat Iran. And we can't do it by ourselves. We need America to do it for us. Okay? Unfortunately for Saudi Arabia, in 2001, 9/11 happened, right? 15 of the 19 hijackers were citizens of Saudi Arabia, which meant that America was very unhappy with Saudi Arabia. Okay? Americans didn't like Saudi Arabia.
But now we know who did it. Who did it? Now we know who did it.
Americans also knew that there were a lot of human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia. The other thing that happened is in 2003, America invaded Iraq. Saudi Arabia tried to exert as much influence as possible in Washington, D.C. to stop the war, because they knew that if America invaded Iraq, it would make Iran more powerful. Now, as you know, Saudi Arabia could not stop the war. Okay? In 2008, Barack Obama came into office, and Barack Obama's understanding of the world was that, okay, the Middle East is a complete mess, and it's hopeless. I don't really want to deal with the Middle East. Plus, China is rising. The main threat to American power in the future will be East Asia. So he proposed something called the Asia Pivot, which is to transfer American military resources from the Middle East to East Asia to counter the threat of China. But to do that, you needed to reduce tensions in the Middle East. And so in 2015, he made a deal with Iran called the Iran nuclear deal. And the deal was basically, Obama said to Iran, listen, I know you're trying to develop nuclear weapons. Okay? So what we're going to do is, if you promise to not develop nuclear weapons, we will lift economic sanctions on you so that you can prosper. And Iran said yes, okay? And this really scared Saudi Arabia. Because if America leaves the Middle East and brokers a peace with Iran, then Saudi Arabia would be extremely vulnerable, okay? So Saudi Arabia became very, very desperate. Its very existence was threatened. Also, the economic outlook for Saudi Arabia was not that great. Remember, the entire economy depended on oil. But guess what, guys? Oil is a finite resource. Eventually, you're going to run out of oil. Okay? Now, if you're optimistic, you'll be like, well, Saudi Arabia would run out of oil in about 70 years' time or 80 years.
Huh?
Time, okay? But there are also some people who believe that Saudi Arabia will run out of oil in about 10 years' time. And if Saudi Arabia has no oil, then its entire economy collapses. Okay? Then you also have a problem with global warming, right? Climate change. You also have a problem with the entire global economy is slowing down, therefore the demand for oil is decreasing. So the economic outlook for Saudi Arabia, it's extremely grim. Okay? And that's why in 2017, Saudi Arabia appointed a new leader called Mohammed bin Salman, okay, the crown prince, whoever calls MBS. And MBS promised to be a new leader. He was young, he was progressive, he wanted women to drive. He wanted young people to go to the movie theater, okay? And he proposed a new vision for Saudi Arabia called Vision 2030. Okay? But MBS's most important achievement is that he became friends with the new president, Donald Trump. Okay? So in 2016, Donald Trump became president of the United States. And MBS decided that this is an opportunity for Saudi Arabia to reset relationships, to reset relations with America. Okay? So Trump, his first trip outside the United States was to Saudi Arabia. That was the first achievement. Second achievement is that MBS became best friends with Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Okay? And Jared Kushner was Trump's Middle East advisor. And his job was to bring peace to the Middle East, mainly between Israel and the Arab countries. And to that extent, Kushner did a great job because MBS helped him, okay? So his major achievement is something called the Abraham Accords. And the Abraham Accords is just to establish peace between Israel and the Arab countries so that they can unite against Iran together. So MBS was looking very good. But then in 2018, he did something that scared the world. Okay? MBS was a visionary. He had a plan for where to take Saudi Arabia. He wanted to modernize Saudi Arabia. But he was also young. And he was a tyrant. He did not like people who criticized him. Okay? So there's a journalist named Jamal Khashoggi who worked for the Washington Post and who was a permanent resident of the United States. He was a Saudi national. And MBS had him killed. And this caused an international uproar, okay? The CIA, the US government, conducted an investigation, and they determined that it was MBS who ordered the assassination. Trump protected MBS. Okay? And then the most important thing that Trump did was in January 2020, Trump ordered the assassination of a man named Qasem Soleimani, who is considered to be the second most powerful man in Iran after the Ayatollah, okay, the supreme religious leader of the country. It is Qasem Soleimani who was responsible for Iran's policies in the Iraq War, the Syria War, and in the Yemen War, okay? So from the perspective of Saudi Arabia, Qasem Soleimani is public enemy number one. He is the greatest threat to Saudi Arabia. Now, before, okay, America had many opportunities to assassinate Qasem Soleimani. George W. Bush had the opportunity, Barack Obama had the opportunity, and both believed that doing so would cause basically World War III, okay? Because if you kill the number 2 leader of Iran, Iran would have no choice but to go to war with you. And that's why they both refrained from killing Qasem Soleimani. In fact, when Trump made the decision to assassinate Soleimani, the entire military was stunned. Okay? They couldn't believe this was happening. So how does this happen? Okay. So for some time, there was some conflict between U.S. soldiers and Shia militiamen in Iraq. And the Pentagon felt it had to act, okay? So in these situations, they had to go to the president and present options to the president of how best to respond. And usually, the Pentagon will design the choices so that the president does what the Pentagon thinks is best, okay? So an example is that if I'm the military and I go to Trump, I give you three choices, okay? The first choice is A, one, let's do nothing, okay? Two is what you should do. And three is let's blow up the world. Okay? So when I present these three options to you is what you should do. And three is let's blow up the world. Okay? So when I present these three options to you, you as a president, being wise and strategic, will obviously always pick option two, right? What you should do, what the military suggests you should do, okay? Unfortunately, in this instance, Trump chose option three. Let's blow up the world, guys. And so they assassinated Qasem Soleimani, okay? So, in other words, it is very likely that if Trump stayed a second term, the United States would have gone to war with Iran, given how things were progressing. Okay? MBS was so happy about all of this that he once bragged privately to a friend that, oh, Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, the man responsible for all Middle East policies, well, he's in my pocket, meaning I own him. Okay? And the evidence that suggests this is that after Trump left office, after Jared Kushner left office, Jared Kushner set up a private equity fund. And MBS and the Saudi government invested $2 billion into the fund. Okay? Does that make sense? So, we don't know how, we don't know this for sure, but it seems like Trump is doing exactly what the Saudis want, which is to inflame tensions with Iran. Okay? And this suggests that if in November Trump wins a second term, it is very possible that Trump will declare war on Iran. Or at the very least, continue to escalate tensions with Iran, okay, which will very likely lead to World War III. So in that respect, the election in November, whether or not Trump comes back into office, is one of the most consequential elections. Okay? Does that make sense, guys? Okay, any questions? Anything you want me to clarify before we end class? The Odyssey. And the Odyssey is a sequel to the Iliad, and it's a family story. It's a story about a homecoming. There are three main characters, right? There's Odysseus. Sorry. Odysseus, who is the main character, and this is why it's called the Odyssey. Then there is Penelope, who is his wife, and there's Telemachus, who is their son. And as we discussed when we read the Iliad, Homer is first and foremost concerned about the human condition. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to live in a world of war, of trauma, of tragedy? And how can we overcome this adversity? So the Odyssey is about three individuals in a family, and they're all traumatized, and they're all heartbroken. Okay? So Odysseus is trying to return home from the war. And his problem is that he has PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is very common for soldiers who return from war. They've seen so much violence, they've seen so much tragedy, they've seen so much senseless death that their souls are shattered. And that is Odysseus' problem. Then you have Penelope, who's suffering from depression. And why is she depressed? Because her husband has been away for 20 years. And she doesn't know if he's alive or he's dead. He's probably dead, right? It's been 20 years. There's been no sign of him for the past 20 years. But she cannot bring herself to admitting that he's dead. So she's put herself in a very precarious situation. There's dozens of suitors who want her hand in marriage. And she wants to say no, but she's afraid that if she does that, then she'll be alone for the rest of her life. But she doesn't want to say yes because she refuses to admit that her husband, the love of her life, Odysseus, is dead. In her heart, she feels that he's still alive, but in her head, she cannot justify it. She cannot explain it. It's just a feeling in her, okay? And so her response, and this is what we call cognitive dissonance, her response is just to shut down, okay? She just spends all her time alone in her room. At first she's weaving stuff, but then she just sits in her room, right? And then there's Telemachus. Telemachus, his problem is that he doesn't know if his father is dead or alive. But the man is a legend. This is a man who won the Trojan War by coming up with a stratagem of a Trojan horse. Okay, so he is a legend in this world, and everyone sings his praises. And he's his son, so he's living in his shadow, okay? And he wants to prove he's better than his father. He wants to become a hero himself, but he's being burdened by the legacy of his father. The other issue is that unless his father is dead, he cannot inherit his father's legacy, right? The property, the reputation cannot be transferred to him. Then there's his mother who's just sitting around the house every single day. If she were to get married, she would leave and then he could be master of his own house, right? But she's still around, so he's kind of stuck. At the same time, the suitors are waiting for Penelope's answer, which is never going to come. So they're just in the house and they're eating up all his wealth. So he is just seeing his life wither away, and there's nothing he can do about it. All right? So he is just depressed as well, and he's angry. But all these things are the same thing. It's really one of cognitive dissonance. It's really one of depression. It's really one of trauma. All right? So there's another way we can analyze what's going on, and to think about the soul. And the soul is something that the ancients were really concerned about, because it was really the most fundamental issue of what it means to be a human being. It's something that we don't talk about today, something that we don't think about today, because we live in a world of material science. If we can't see it, it doesn't exist. But for most of humanity, for most of human history, humanity has understood the soul as very present and as very real and the most significant thing in our lives. Okay? So the soul that they understood, let's talk about their understanding of the soul. And this is true for a lot of cultures. First of all, the soul is a very complex thing. Okay? It is almost infinite dimensions. There are different layers to the soul. And there's really a part of the soul that is you. Okay? That's just you, the person. But who you are as a person is ultimately influenced by other influences as well, by other factors as well, okay? So these influences include your family, okay? Your culture, the history, and maybe the gods, okay? So again, there are infinite dimensions, and these dimensions have these influences include your family, okay? Your culture, the history, and maybe the gods, okay? So again, there are infinite dimensions, and these dimensions have an impact on you. And maybe when you die, maybe there's a part of you that lives on, okay? But there's also parts of you that flows back into these different streams of the universe. Okay, so it's a very complex thing. Now, the soul, another name for the soul that we use today, if you go to psychology class, their name for the soul is the worldview. Okay? So we have a much more simplistic understanding of our psychology than the ancients. The idea of the worldview is just our understanding of who we are, where we came from, and our place in the universe. Okay, and we believe it comes from our memories and our experiences.
be able to make it into the safe haven from there. When I say so, we go. Go!
What's going on? What's... Jesse! Goodness! What happened?
We need to get her help! Now!
Poppy? Is that really... Right. I'll take her to one of the beds. I'll check the defenses. See if something's still outside.
Just something. It's him! He's out there!
You brought him down? We'll talk about this later. For now, I'll make sure out there is where he stays.
Locking down safe haven. Reactivating the defense.
Over here. Get some rest, okay?